it will look like tokenism based on what Barbie typically used to do. It's like, yes, you have kind of the one melanated doll or the couple. I feel like they're getting better at it now, but I mean, the Barbie line is clearly majority Caucasian. So that's not like anything that you now add to it is just, it's gonna feel that forced inclusiveness. And again, I haven't seen the movie, so maybe they've done it very well, but Issa Rae being in it just kind of lends to that tokenism conversation.
No problem. Fitness IQ Cam says fair. Christopher Lawrence says, is today a freestyle Monday? So far, yes, it is. So if you have any topics and conversations you want to bring to play, I am working on getting some people on the platform. And actually, that's probably what I'm going to spend most of today and tomorrow doing that, amongst other things. But I'll get some new people on the platform. So that's it. That's it. So Ryan, let's get back to this business and politics. Interesting. You're basically saying that you can't really not avoid it if you're in business.
And so I'll say I've been running detailing nights for over 10 years, so close to 15 years.
Congratulations, by
the
way.
Thank you. And so we don't put out press releases based on political stuff. It's just, hey, we focus on cleaning cars, and if you need your car, if your car is dirty, call us. So we're not looking to make political statements. But
Stay
then
in your lane.
Ryan is a public figure, and Ryan is attached to Detailing Nights. So anything that I say gets attached to Detailing Nights. And I haven't seen it like a backlash to say like, oh, Ryan said XYZ on the Morning Vibe, and so I'm not gonna use his car cleaning company. I haven't seen a direct correlation there, but it can happen. And eventually I might, hey, all this talk that I've been giving my opinion on women and how they dress and being at events might have a back where women are like, listen, I'm not gonna support his business anymore. So that can always happen because humans run businesses. So a business gets usually attached to a political figure.
For now, ChatGPT running your, for now.
Listen,
actually,
AI is catching up 100%.
Interesting. Just quickly, I again was quickly going through social media on the weekend, and it was actually on Twitter. I saw a post where there was a guy playing ping pong against a robot,
like in person, like Cyborg. Whoa!
I'm going, is this really real? But it was, and the robot won the point, and the guy was smashing smashed the robot and won the point on a nice little dink shot. I just went, wow! I just went crazy. Let's get back on some comments here. Sophia Jacob says, good points, Ryan. Nice. Nikki and Ice Spice remixed the Barbie soundtrack. Christopher Lawrence goes, congrats, Ryan. Well done. Your business accomplishments. Yes. Now, okay, wait. Okay. Sophia Jacob says Carabana makes a ton of money for TO. And then Wayne Harris, we'll jump onto this. Carabana is coming up. Who's going? How much money will it make for the community, if any? Are you all okay with that?
I would doubt anybody would be okay with it. It's now, how do we shift that from it only making money for the city in general to it now actually economically benefiting the Black community that puts it on. I mean, Carabana's going on 50 plus years. So what out of Carabana has been produced other than the festival each year? That would be a good question. I feel like Wayne is trying to lead us in that conversation to say like, hey, we should be paying attention to the economic benefit that we're bringing to the city. How do we translate that into wealth building in the Black community? I haven't been part of any of those conversations. If those are happening, that's great, but I haven't seen anything really change in how it's being run now so that it creates infrastructure.
So Fitness IQ Cam says, I'm going to a retreat on Caravana Saturday. There you go. Okay, so going to Wayne's question, he said that, hold on. Christopher Lawrence says it's time to create a new Caravana. Who's starting the first business meeting? No, I'm not.
A new Caravana, yes.
I'm not. So Wayne, I'll tell you, I have not been. First of all, I don't call it Caravana. I call it a Marabana.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Right, because it's Caravana would be nothing without the Americans coming up. I don't know if that's but there's a large number of Americans. So a Marabana, that's what I call it. I have not been to Caravana in minimum 15 years.
Okay.
I have not been there for 15 years. Do I plan how much money we'll make for the community? That's a good question, because I think the amount of money it makes to the community versus the amount of money it makes for the non-community is interesting. I'm not okay with that, but again, there's for a number of years, and I don't know if it says there's been continuous mismanagement or whatever going on. Like again, was it 2 months ago? 2 or 3 of the major executives resigned, and also now is it the city that's the main sponsor? I know at one time was Scotiabank. I don't know who's involved in the running of it anymore, but right there, that there's an outside entity, they're calling the shots, not melanated people.
Right. So, and for those that don't know kind of the operations of the festival itself, so it used to be run by the Caravana Arts Group, which is a nonprofit. And for many years, it was run by them. Then it was taken away, I would say, by the city and assigned to an actual events management company. So FMC, so the Festival Management Committee, I think it's called. That FMC is who puts on the parade. So they get the money from the city and they execute the parade. So now Caravana Arts Group has the name Caravana and FMC runs the festival. So it'd be good to see if the name and the festival can get back together, but there's a whole kind of big, long story, fuller story there. Probably that should be a documentary in itself.
As you were just reading my alleged mind, there would be a great Netflix documentary.
Yes. Yeah.
I know some people that have been involved to try to level up a Marabana, and they were basically pushed off by the people that have been there for a while. So I think that I have no interest in a Marabana. So good morning, Roger Dundas. Good morning, family. Hope you are doing fine. Good day. Sophia Jacob says, instead of working with our community, they snatch it out of their hands and has never been returned since. That's the impression I get, that someone just took it away, got a good price on it, done. So I don't know if there's, I never say never, I don't know if it'll ever be back in melanated hands again. Roger Dundas says, great conversation last night, by the way. Thank you, Roger. I'm glad you could catch a bit of it. But yeah, I tell you, last night's conversation with Dr. Aisha and Dr. Tachi, that was like that's deep thinking. That was deep and honest thinking. And just to tell you, Roger, we are going to have them back for more conversations, because first of all, they really like each other's company. They mesh well together. And as I said, I've known Dr. Tachi for a while. When I met Dr. Alicia, saying, wonderful Black women, both involved in higher education, both very passionate. And I said, I just put it out there in the universe. I'd love to have them together. Bang, bang. And Roger says about last night's conversation, thought-provoking. Yes. So I'm going to encourage you to go to the YouTube channel and catch that conversation from last night on the replay. Absolutely. Fitness IQ says, until they get a building for all the bands, and also, yes, the Americans. Yes, the Americans. No, I don't have any interest in going to see a Marabana. I do hope turns out okay, but we're like I said, it's another thing that I don't need to know that we're good at entertaining and partying. I want us to show people we're good at running something efficiently and profitably.
Yeah, and well, what's interesting, and I think to Wayne Harris's point, where does the money go? So a lot of money comes in, but now look, there's the NIA Center for the Arts. They're working on a building for developing artists and the art culture. Where does money go that is generated from the festival that could support something like that? Typically, the only benefit that I've seen the Black community get from the festival, the Caravana, is the vendors that have to pay a high cost to be there. So they might not even be profitable or break even. But beyond that, like there's no hotels that benefit from it. There's no travel agents that coordinate people coming here.
We're talking melanated ones.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So, like the city's hotels, they definitely benefit. But Black owned to say that, hey, because of the money that's brought in from Caravana, we can now invest in the cultural center.
Yeah.
I've never seen that coordination. No. So now we're only thinking about, what can I sell at the festival? But that doesn't ripple out into infrastructure building or wealth building.
Okay. Christopher Lawrence says festivals are quite viable. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the Maribana. It just, I just don't know. And it'll be interesting. Here's the interesting thought. Will a Maribana still run 10 years from now?
Yeah, I don't see. So the core structure of the festival is the city gives money to an events company to run a parade. Like and like you said, the city gets great benefit from bringing. Like if we talk to Tourism Toronto or the tourism department, they want a Maribana. They want something that brings people from other countries to Toronto. So they're not gonna say, stop having the festival. So it's always going to be operating. Yeah. It's not, will it ever shift to benefiting us in a purposeful way?
Right.
Until that happens, because the money, but like also on the flip side, we saw in Montreal, they lost their funding for their similar Caravana event.
Yes. Good point.
The story is that the government said, they didn't fill out paperwork or they didn't get it in on time or whatever the excuse was. So that money could dry up. And then because us as a community aren't funding it ourselves, I haven't heard if they're going to put on the festival anywhere, if they got money from somewhere else. But initially it was, the festival in Montreal isn't happening because they lost this certain funding from the government. So literally, like if the government here, the city says, you know what, this isn't something that we're putting in, or they forget to put in their application, it might not be a festival. So it could possibly happen, to contradict myself.
So Sophia Jacob says it would go back into the business and city facilities and hotels, but all of those should be Black owned, not back owned. She also continues, yes, exactly. It will still run because they don't need Black people. Your L must be missing to run it. Just help be the face so they can make it seem though it's for our community. Symbolism. There we go. That's basically what you're saying. Blackface on it, but the hands that the people that really benefit financially, power-wise, are non-melanated. That's what it seems like. Look, to me, again, I'm not deep into it as much anymore as I was. Sophia says, you got to get that spell check going. The same thing happened in Ottawa.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. So it seems to be a trend that melanated people, you start something, and after a while, it blows up and don't have any control of it anymore. It seems to be a reoccurring pattern, which is not a good pattern.
Yeah, agreed.
So, go ahead.
yeah, we're good at starting things, but that's where having a plan for the thing, because hey, Caravana started, they wanted to celebrate the diversity of the different Caribbean countries here in Toronto, but there was no 50-year plan for the parade. It was okay,
sustainability.
yeah, let's put this thing on. And then, like you said, it started to bubble up and it gets very popular. But even still, when it started to get popular, people that had certain plans to use the profits to benefit the community, in board meetings, it gets shut down. So then things are purchased, such as a building from the profits. They could have purchased a building and now used that as a Caribbean cultural center. Those ideas were not taken seriously, and instead they just decided, hey, we invested into the people making costumes, and that's the extent of what we want to focus on. We just want to focus on making sure that we get the costumes built, and we're seeing the effect of that. So now, until we can shift where money flows or take advantage of, like, I think somebody posted in the comment, like the hotels, travel agents, all the ripple effect of where the money goes, we have to put ourselves into those industries and be the managers of it.
Okay. Christopher Lawrence brings up some interesting numbers here. The festival attracts 1.2 million people, not 1.2 people, 1.2 million people. I don't understand this 180 tourists. I don't understand that. But the key thing I'm looking at, generates $338 million approximately. He says, holy jerk chicken. There you go. So here's the question.
Okay.
Of that $338 million, what percentage goes into melanated hands?
And that would be I mean, we had what Dr. Pierre from Dunn, Pierre and Barnett, a research firm that should do a study on the I'm pretty sure there has been a study on the economic benefit of the festival for Toronto. And you can see clearly like who benefits and where the money is going. So I got to do some digging to see if that exists. But if that hasn't been done already, we should commission that so that we actually know the approximate dollar figure of how impactful it could be if more of that dollars flow through our community.
Okay, so I think with Christopher, I'm looking probably at the same story that Christopher. Well, that's old. That's an old story. Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, all the stories I have about the economic benefit are really old, so I won't quote really old numbers. Roger Dundas says there's also the issue of South Asian Indianism, racism against Black within Caravana. What? There we go.
Hey, see, so I don't even hear about that.
Right.
So I thought at least for this festival, I mean, with Calypso and soca and reggae playing, we all can agree that those musics are fine. So that racism that's happening, that's probably some inner backroom stuff that I have no idea about.
All right. Keep the comments coming. We're going to bring up another story here that was brought to my attention by Roger Dundas. Thank you, Roger. We're going to bring this up. Let me put it up on the screen. This had me thinking all weekend. So let's put it up on the screen here. It's thinking. Okay, Jamie Sarkonrak. Hopefully, I'm sorry if I didn't get that right. Toronto principal bullied over false charge of racism, dies of suicide. So this is a really interesting story. And again, okay. So long story short, and Roger, you can fact check me. I'm not going to read the whole article, but basically what happened was this gentleman who was a principal of a school, there's an organization called the Kojo Institute. They do diversity and equity training throughout Canada. I think they may even do some stuff in the United States. They had gone into the school and gave some diversity and equity training. And geez, what can I? Okay, well, let's see. Okay, so I'll read this paragraph. His stellar career took a sour note after he was bullied in a. This is the quotations of the columnist. I'm only reading what he put out there. All right. Mm-hmm. So his stellar career took a sour note after he was bullied in a diversity, equity, and inclusion training for the Toronto District School Board administrators in 2021. According to the lawsuit he filed in court, his sin in the eyes of facilitators of the Kojo Institute was questioning their claim that Canada was a more racist place than the United States. Canada wasn't perfect, he said, but it still offers a lot of good. For the rest of the training session and throughout the follow-up training sessions the week after, facilitators repeatedly referred to Bitzko's comments as examples of white supremacy. The experience was humiliated, particularly because Bitzko placed a great emphasis on equality and anti-discrimination during his career. So I can read further onto this, but also as a last resort of accountability, he launched a lawsuit against the TDSB administrators, and then the TDSB launched a subsequent lawsuit against the Kojo Institute, but later told me it planned to discontinue that claim. But this gentleman committed suicide last Thursday. And again, it's interesting what gets covered in the news and what doesn't get covered in the news. Again, thanks to Roger Dundas for bringing this up. And also we won't get too deep into it, but he did tell me that one of the members of the Kojo Institute, because of this, has received death threats.
Ooh, oh boy.
Right.
And, this is where, and again, condolences to the family, because suicide is something that typically when a person feels completely all hope is lost would take their life. And reading through the story, you realize that after the training, and okay, so he felt bullied because of his comments and how he was treated. It was now the ongoing, I'd say, trauma of dealing with that incident. So I believe he took time off, and then he
tried to come back, and he couldn't get any contracts or work from the sort of band. He sort of got banned. And he was
so I was probably labeled as, so it lingered. It wasn't like just a one-time incident and then he killed himself over that incident itself. It was kind of the domino effect that was happening. So now, does this bring into question diversity, equity, and inclusion work going too far? Or do we say like, well, it was valid for the facilitator to bring up like, hey, your comment is an example of white supremacy, and then it just not sitting well on his heart? Like, what was going on internally that pointing out something caused him so much stress? Or was it the administrators, like the school board, now taking that information from the session and using that to now keep him from work? Because that might not, I don't think that's fair to say like you're in a session to train and get better, and now it's being used against you. So many different threads to pull on, like, because it went to the extreme. And I don't know of many instances where it's gone to that extreme to say like DEI training is happening, and then the people that take the training are so affected in a negative way that they would consider taking their own life. Like, that to me is such an extreme.
So the Tim Frey is here. So good morning, Tim. Hope Tim, you are doing fine. Sophia Jacob goes, the story is deep. Yeah, it's a deep story. Fitness IQ goes, really? Wow, I wasn't aware.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Roger Dundas says white fragility.
And that's what I was alluding to. But I don't know if it's fair to say, because if a person is called out in a session, that's one thing. But the story makes it seem like they kept using it as an example. So then he became like the personification of white supremacy in the sessions that they're doing. And I feel like that's why he sued, because he felt he wasn't being treated fairly, when in the article it does show like his track record of diversity and inclusion is strong, or it's better than most. So to unfairly label somebody like that, that's where the word bullying comes up. Because if it's a person that truly is like, planting their flag in the ground, white supremacy, like, no, everybody is better off because they're in Canada, and, people should be grateful, and I don't need to do the training. And like, I don't think that was the perspective he was coming from. But I do agree that a lot of times white people play the victim when pressed about their, oh my gosh, their privilege. And then, so when you point out their privilege, suddenly they become the victim. And now Black people, we have to be coddling to them to say like, oh, we didn't really mean it like that. Or like, it's a weird dynamic. And that's why I know for myself, you keep quiet in certain situations, because if you call it out, they're going to get emotional. And I've seen this many times in meetings or board meetings where a person gets so defensive and emotional when you call out like, listen, what you're doing right now is adversely affecting the Black community or the Black discussion. And then the rest of the meeting, it's trying to appease this person's, like, they're crying, or they don't even want to continue the meeting because they're like, oh, I feel like I'm being attacked. So yeah. I'm sure that white fragility does come in, and we've seen it play out. But on the flip side, we shouldn't be pressing people to the point that they feel, they can't work, and they also would want to kill themselves by being better. So
it's a really deep story, and family, I love people's thoughts on this. And if you want, I can share the link. I'll share the link on our Morning Vibe Discord group. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. I'll share the link on the morning, and also going to share it in the other Discord group that I run, the State of Things, Aisha, Jill, and Lala. Be very interesting to get people's feedback on this. I also would want, I know there's going to be comments here, but what would happen if the roles were reversed?
Like, describe for me what that would look like.
So say that it was, say that, and this has happened to many melanated people, they get the pressure of being in the system drove them to commit suicide. And this happened, I'm sure it has happened to many a melanated person. And the question is, did this gentleman, was he treated fairly? I think that's what the bottom line question is. Was he treated fairly? I understand where the white fragility comes from. I hear you, Roger, but I also hear what you're saying too, Roger, because if you read the article, this gentleman had a track record of being very supportive and putting energy for equality from what we read. Again, from what we read, that's from that source. And also the article was written in a publication called the National Post in Canada, and there seemed to be more right-leaning, because the last paragraph in the article was very interesting. What this columnist said, saying, in the meantime, this goes down as a harsh reminder that hasty vitriolic accusations of racism can contribute to real trauma experienced by real people, including those who spent their careers promoting multiculturalism and fighting discrimination. The public sector needs to seriously reconsider its practice of using taxpayer dollars to fund disruption and confrontation of staff. So I
don't agree with that. Like, that's where now you're using an incident to now disrupt the entire truth and reconciliation. They're like, oh, don't use public dollars to now make Canada better. Like, the way that it's worded is like, oh, Canada's fine, or pay for it yourself. So Black community wants diversity and inclusion, but we have to pay for it ourselves to get it. Like, that's a backward statement that I'm shocked that they would put into print.
Well, it's not a shock. Well, it's a right center, a right leaning publication. So that is not to be. It's not, to me. It's not a surprise. Being a media person, not to be not surprised at all. Christopher Lawrence said, "I overheard a conversation that DI should be facilitated by non-melanated persons still processing this." So here's the question. I think DEI conversation should be led by representatives who have been impacted in a bad way by lack of diversity, because they are living the experience. They're living that experience. Now, again, I'm sure, even though this isn't a lot of people don't know about this story now, this story is going to get more coverage because there's going to be a lawsuit. In fact, there is already a lawsuit. It's going to get more and more coverage. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier about some media houses aren't playing it right here in Canada because they should be linking this with what happened with the Supreme Court and affirmative action in the US. That would bam, I'd be that's why I'm glad Roger brought this to attention. That's one of the reasons I also did the conversation last night. And that's why I think these two stories are aligned.
True.
Obviously, now it's actually gone to in this case, a big extreme, really, really big extreme. But it's going to be very interesting to see the landscape of diversity and inclusion over the next few years.
Well, and Sophia, we've seen a lot of white people get hired in DEI roles. So what Christopher is saying, I've seen that happen. If you check LinkedIn and you look at people's titles and they're the director of DEI or the VP of diversity and inclusion, and it's not melanated people.
Yeah, I think that's a huge miss. That's a huge miss. And also, Sophia Jacob says we need folks with lived experience leading DEI trainings. I think that makes sense. I think that makes perfect sense. I think that, and then I've also had, I know a number, but I'm going to go here. I know a number of, especially melanated ladies who have been hired to do DEI training or hired by companies to do it. And a lot of them leave. They say it's too stressful. There's no support. I feel like they're just checking a box and they're not really committed to it. I know, again, I had mentioned in the past, there's a lady, in fact, you and I both know, who got a position to do DEI training at one of Canada's top 5 retailers.
Okay.
She left after 6 months.
Wow.
And I said, why'd you leave? She says, they're not committed to it. They're not serious, etc. She says, I felt hired for symbolism.
Whoa. And I've noticed a lot of those contracts are even short term. People that got hired
short term DEI.
Yeah, within a year, DEI. Contract is not renewed.
Short term DEI. Really.
This is what we're seeing.
Thought processes that have been gathered over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, a 6-month contract to turn it all around.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me. You know, that does not make sense to me. I really wonder how committed. Well, and I know you may bring up something here. I'm going to put out there. How committed Canadian corporations are to DEI?
Well, this is where, when we talk about checking boxes, like a lot of corporations sign the pledge.
I know you're going to bring that up. So
reports are showing that they're not serious, and not even to say, okay, Globe and Mail does a report, that's fine. But I called them. I emailed these companies and said, you know, it's great that you signed this pledge. It'd be wonderful to have a conversation to see how you can support Black entrepreneurs, because the pledge was more about employment and getting people onto boards and hired at senior level. What are you going to do for businesses, Black businesses? And the response that majority of them gave is like, oh, well, we already signed that pledge, so go talk to Black North. It's like, no.
Go talk to them. What about where you're talking to them? Not
exactly,
nothing.
but they use it as a gate now, where they're saying like, "Oh, we've already done our part by, like you said, checking that box. We don't have to talk about this anymore." And that to me is one, disrespectful, and two, won't actually get work done, because no one organization can fix all the issues in all themes of the Black community. As much as anybody wants to say that they can, it can't happen. And until we actually collaborate and tackle things as a unit, corporations are just going to take the easy route out, sign a quick pledge, and be done with it.
Sophia Jacobs says, the glass cliff. They always run to hire us when things are broken in the company or when they are under fire. As soon as they hire us, they start to tear us down. She also says, why can't they hire us when things are going well in their corporations? And then she also says, it's not only stressful, it can create cracks in our career path. It also causes trauma. Okay. Roger Dundas says, I think white people are tired of being told they are racist, and there's a hashtag circulating now, hashtag DEI kills.
Whoa. Oh, man.
So
they'll definitely latch on to that narrative.
Well, and I knew the pushback was coming. And again, for those who keep track, I'm going to be keeping track. How much more is this story going to get covered? Right? How much more? And again, Roger, thank you for bringing this story to my attention. I don't know if many melanated outlets in this city have picked up on this. So I feel sure this is going to get covered in the mainstream media when that trial comes up. If it comes up, or maybe there's a settlement, but the impact it's had on the gentleman's family who passed away, yes. Kojo Institute, death threats. Also, what's going to be the future of the Kojo Institute doing these sort of trainings because of this event? I can see companies saying, hey, we don't want to deal with your company anymore because of this. Whether, because of that event, though, I can just see that. I can see the wall put up because of that. Because again,
it gives them an easy excuse.
It gives them an excuse, even though at the end of the day, it was his decision to do that. I think that it's going to be very, very interesting to see where this story leads. Like, where does it lead to?
But and that's where, like, you're in the training, accept the training. Like, a lot of times, you want to voice your opinion, and yes, coming to Canada might be positive in one side, but the training is about the ways that it's negatively, like Canada has negatively impacted the community. And she might have been talking about Indigenous as well, or he. So if you're in a training receiving education, accept the education. Like, it's fine to have your own opinions. And again, condolences to the family. But like Roger was saying, that white fragility where you become the example and you can't handle it. You can't handle that you're being trained about your own biases, your own racism, your own white supremacy, your own privilege. And so many times people, like white people, become the victim. It's like, just listen for once. Like, you're in a training to learn. He's an educator. And so if we're in class and a teacher is teaching us something, and I'm just going to be pushing back against the teacher on everything that they say, because, I don't want to hear from you that 2 + 2 is 4. It's like, no, you're a student. Like, and that's where maybe that it's difficult to switch from, because he was a principal, to becoming the student again. To be like, listen, be in this training and just learn. We're not attacking you. We're just letting you know things that you're saying aligns with what we're trying to teach you isn't right. But then they take it so personal and look at the end result instead of learning from that. And if he'd been supportive of this prior, I'm shocked that this would be something that he can't handle. That's where I'm not understanding. I'm hoping ignorant people don't latch on to this and turn him into a martyr to say, oh, this gentleman is the proof that DEI kills, and begin to use this as a mantra, because now you're stopping people from learning. And when you stop the learning, nothing is going to change. So I'm hoping like it doesn't become what you're saying, but I can see it because people want any excuse to show we don't want to do any extra work about our racism. We just want to operate and everybody can deal with it. Again, and that's not the way this works.
Again, it's somewhat aligned with what we were chatting about earlier about, conducting business and staying safe, right? Like you don't want to take, Wayne Harris says, good point here. The majority are not looking to listen to the minority. The majority only listen to the majority. Interesting. Good statement. Sophia says, sometimes when Black women become a leader, it soon starts when they call us aggressive, say we have an attitude and we are not able to perform the job. Example, Anne-Marie Paul, former Green Party leader. Yes. That was a big backlash there with her to the point where she resigned.
Yeah.
She resigned because of that. I think that it's, and maybe it comes back to, again, what Dr. Alicia said last night. We just got to do our own. That's what she's saying. We just got to do our own.
Yeah, separate but equal, and just
maybe that's what her suggestion is. Maybe what, and she also said she said last night, again, I'm promoting that conversation because it was fire. He said we shouldn't expect people who don't look like us to help us. Their priority is them first. That is her thought process. Also, her husband, Dr. Boyce, he's even stronger than that. I ain't gonna quote him. You can go watch him, but he really deep dive into that, and it's interesting. I'll use an example. He runs something that I know Ryan and I want to get to one day called the Annual Black Convention. I think that he calls it.
And I've been to it once.
You've been, and that convention. No sponsorships, no nothing. It's all run by his organization.
Right.
So he can invite who he wants, what he wants, none of that, no influence by sponsorships. Okay, Christopher Lawrence says, does DEI change HR practices to now change hiring practices and overall diversity in every tier of an orgs and companies? I don't know the answer to that. But again, let's bring up that conversation in the Discord group, and I can reach out to at least one person I know. Like I could possibly reach out to that one person who used to work for a top 5 retailer in Canada in their HR. I could maybe get some comments from her. I want her to keep her anonymity if she would like, but I can, actually that would be a good conversation for us to get some people to talk about the state of DEI.
Yeah, and I know a couple people that got hired as DEI.
Can you reach out to them? I would like if they're comfortable. I would love to have them on the platform.
I think that'd be good.
And get the state of DEI as we speak now, because it's very, very interesting landscape on what's going on in that world. So I think that this story, especially in Canada, is far from over.
Well, and what's difficult too is, so our organization will reach out to a company to say like, hey, we're looking to partner with you and see how we can work together. And then that company will point us to the DEI department. And now 3 months later, that person's gone. So it's like, it's a complete deflection. And also it's not even long-term. So sure, if that DEI person was there and it's going to be there for years, you can work with them. But typically you reach back out a few months later and the person's gone. Nobody's really replaced them. So it's difficult to build relationships with companies because they keep deflecting you to this DEI department that's temporary.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think just let alone the example you used there, it took them a while to get back to you. That's a red flag right there.
Right. Well, sometimes because the person is not there anymore. So
well,
you don't know.
But that's a red flag.
Yeah.
That's just, that when it takes a while for like a few months. Wow, that's crazy. We've got a comment here from Hayton. What's going on, Hayton? Saying that the status quo is the status quo because it works for the majority. Does anyone really believe that they change it?
Valid.
It's interesting with especially with the changing demographics of Canada, the United States. What is this going to look like in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Will it change? Because this is a system. I think people don't realize at the bottom line, this is a system. And if you want to break a system or change a system, you've got to have a system.
Right. A system to combat the system. Yeah.
So maybe it's a big wish to think that hiring people to do something when there's no system in place for them to impact change, it's not set up for success. Hiring people in temporary spots, that's not a systemic approach. It's a short-term approach to a long-term journey.
Right. 100%.
This is that again, it's just symbolism. But definitely, Ryan, I asked favor-wise if you're able to get even one or two people, and hey, I'm even willing for them to come on. They don't have to give their real name. They don't even have to put the camera on if they want.
Gotcha. Right.
Or just give their first name. I have no difficulty with that. I think that's a very important and relevant conversation that we need to have. I don't, I'm gonna ask if you can see if we can make that one happen.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, man. I'll send the notes.
Yeah, I there's someone I know also. I'll see if I can reach out to her. But yeah, so that is it for this morning, family. We're letting Ryan go before his 10:30 so he can breathe. He always has this 10:30 meeting, and a lot of times we're just running up right against, or he has to leave. We want him to say goodbye this time, not just like click off the screen. So again, thanks everyone for making an epic conversation. Well, we can just drop a conversation. I was chatting with someone who runs a Black podcasting organization, and I tell them about the morning vibe, and I say, yeah, sometimes we can just drop a subject and the audience just takes it and goes, what? How you doing that? Oh my gosh. So I'm going to, since Ryan is, I'll do shout outs. Thank you, Christopher Lawrence. Says great conversation. Thank you, Christopher Lawrence. Great conversation. Thank you. Good stuff. So I want to thank everyone for dropping by this morning. Good stuff. I'm glad everyone heard out that conversation topic about the gentleman who committed suicide. Again, condolences to his family. It also, though, is a bigger conversation to that. There's a bigger conversation that all of us need to have, and there are a number of people that aren't even having the conversation, or they've put it in the garbage can. Sorry, it has to be recycled and brought up because it's impacting the status of this nation, especially Canada. I have another comment here. Fitness IQ. Okay. Sophia says, let's talk on Friday about the FIFA's World Cup, Women's World Cup. What do you want to chat about it? It's going on.
Start. Yes.
So Sophia, I'm going to put up the details of the Discord group. I want you to join it and tell us, what do you want us to talk, from what angle do you want to talk about the FIFA World Cup? Just putting a topic out there. Hey, that's great, but we want to really go deeper. Fitness IQ Camp says, agree, Sophia. Okay, well, you're going to have to contribute to the Discord group so we have some context.
Yes, and in Brampton, they're doing the cricket T20 tournament.
Yes, it's a big event.
So bias to the Vancouver Knights. Gotta represent the last name. But
I wish it was 10:30 right now after that comment.
What about the Brampton
I wish it was. But that cricket event is it's a big thing.
Yeah. It's huge.
It's a big. I heard media reports. I'm going, this is serious. Fitness IQ says, I'll remind you in the Discord. Thank you, Fitness IQ Cam. That's what you got to do. So a few other things before we check out. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also like the Dr. Vibe Show Facebook, LinkedIn, and I have to put Instagram too. I forget putting Instagram, but also join the Morning Vibe Discord group. Email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, to advertise your business or service on our show, please email me. There's the email address. Ryan, what is going on this week?
Yeah, this week I think it's quiet.
Again?
Yeah,
amazing.
Some family outings and
nice.
Not too much hubbub. On Friday, we do have our monthly Black Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Partners meeting. So looking forward to that, getting caught up, getting some feedback on the conference from those that, just to see how the next year's conference could look. So looking forward to that. But yeah, and also how we can create the report for the Black Entrepreneurship Program 2.0. That's a topic on the agenda because the program ends next year, December 2024, and then it's back to square one unless we get purposeful and lean into this. So that's kind of where my head's at. How about yourself?
Have a little bit of editing too. Most of it's done by the team, but somewhat a quiet week. But it's allowing me to give some space to work on some different things. Again, thinking Q4 and also Q1 of next year. And the FitNats Cam, I see you're already putting in the Discord group thing. So good. Love that. You can go with that. Love that that's happening. Yeah, but somewhat quiet. Yeah. So it seems like it's like a midsummer thing, and it's nice and quiet right now. Nothing too crazy. Like I said, done enough conversations for a while. So screen wise, I don't expect to see myself on screen wise till Friday, and also working to get some people on Friday. So I'm going to reach out to him today. There's a melanated gentleman that has started a new wellness app.
Okay, solid.
And he's based in Toronto. And actually, I know the lady who is the voice of it, and they were on an IG Live last night, but I'm going to reach out to him. Yeah, so it's a Black-owned wellness app.
Okay, excellent.
So I've got to reach out to him to see if we can get him on Friday. And there's a few other people. Again, I'm still trying to reach out to maybe one or two people to give their comments on the refugee issue, because that hasn't gone away. It's still existent. Like, exactly. How long can they stay in that church?
Exactly, yes.
Right? So got to work on that. So there's a scrolling at the bottom where you can watch replays of the Morning Vibe on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and Facebook, Afro-Caribbean Business Network, Facebook and YouTube, and Ryan O'Neill Knight on YouTube and LinkedIn. We have 2 more comments hit up here. Okay. I'm glad you gentlemen have a semi-quiet week. Yes.
Yes.
And also, yes. And she goes, speaking of wellness, yes. Exactly. Thank you. There's someone who cares about us outside of our immediate families. That is a good thing. I was at an event yesterday and someone said, how are you doing? I said, you know what? Not that many people ask me that. So I appreciate that. So that's it. And then Fitness IQ Cam is talking about a wellness retreat in the Discord group also. Okay. I think that's it. Ryan, anything else you want to add? Oh, one other thing I want to add. Condolences to the Salmon family. Beverly Salmon.
Yes.
A matriarch in the Toronto Black community passed away recently. So condolences to the Salmon family, Warren Salmon, who's been running First Fridays for how many years, Ryan? You will know more than I.
At least 26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So condolences to the family. Bev Salmon, a true pillar of not only Black Toronto but Black Canadians.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Okay. That's it, family. Thank you for putting up with us. We'll see you on Friday. Again, join the Discord group so we can keep the conversations going. All right. Live your life as I almost forgot about live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Walk good and subscribe.
Yes.